Hello, this is Talon with Old Guy Stuff on Busy Corner Lane. And before I show you how I make these phone stands, I'm going to give you a little bit of what's important and what's not important with regard to size. Okay, first of all, my angle. So, let me slide this over some. The two phone stands which are larger, that is 60-degree angle here. Okay? And all my cuts are at 60 degrees, right? This one is 45 degrees. Now the reason I got 45 degrees on these and 60 on these is if I'm sitting at the table and I'm looking at something on my phone or one of my other devices, this is a good angle for me to be able to see really well, okay? But if I'll put this on the countertop next to the stove, because I'm looking at the stopwatch while I'm cooking, then this angle is a little too steep, whereas 45 degrees enables me to see very well what the numbers are. So that's the only reason why I have an angle difference. Okay, now with regard to size, the long dimension on each part is 5 inches on these, and on this one it's 3.5. Okay, now it's better to be too short than to be too long. So let me kind of explain that. If I'm looking from the back with this camera, right? My old phone, this is the HTC Aria, will have difficulty seeing clearly over this edge if I'm taking a picture across the room, okay? Whereas the taller phone is going to be able to see over that edge easily, all right? I can go landscape with these, like that. I can do that, okay? On any of them, just the way they're set up. I can go sideways. But if this was too tall, the camera wouldn't show good for taking pictures or making a video. So you've got to kind of keep that in mind. Now, this shorter one, even though the angle is more pushed back at 45 degrees. This would be a good height for this smaller phone. And I mean, if I'm up at the angle like the other ones are, it's going to be able to see really well. Okay, so that's where you have the importance and the unimportance of size. So it all depends on, you know, your particular device that you're going to use. Now, I'll show you some other basics on these then. We'll take these off. These are adjustable, and I just use a rubber band in the back for tension, okay? I will show the cutting process though, how I go about my angles. These are just 1/4-inch wood dowels. On some of the ones I have in the house, I'm using a 3/8 inch instead of a 1/4 inch. But I'm using a 1/4 on this because I found some beads that are very wide and I wanted to have the decorative beads as opposed to these that I made with a hole saw. Move that out the way. Okay. So I wanted to use the beads, so I went with the smaller dowels on this. And I have a hole here, which allows me to push up like this, and I have a bead in the back, okay? So if I want to, I can have the bead up in the front. It doesn't really matter, but this makes your phone set at a more vertical angle, which can be important because, let me pull these out, if I want to take a picture of something far across the room, I may need to have that higher angle like this. Okay, so that will go further across the room than, say, this angle here. Right. So these can slide in and out. And what I recommend, because I'm going to give these away as gifts, what I recommend is that when you find how far you need, because each phone is a little different, when you find how far you need, glue it. Just put some glue in the hole. Okay. So just put a little bit of glue in the hole with maybe a Q-tip or a toothpick, and then slide this into place until you get the setting you want. It's that simple. Okay, so let's go to the how I'm actually making a process. All right, so for the cutting process, and just so you know, to save time and the fact that I don't need to make a phone stand right now, I'm not going to actually cut, but I will show you everything that I do, okay? First, I have a digital level, and I like this one a lot. What I do is I just set it on the base here, and I let it calibrate to 0, okay? And my display is kind of wearing out a little bit here, but I set it to 0, okay? And then I set it vertically because it got a magnetic base on this here. Now I have not actually set this back to 90 degrees, which is why this is off right there, okay? In case you're wondering. But I have a bolt and big nut and bolt combination in the back of the saw. And when I loosen it, it allows me to go like this. So I set it at the angle I want, and the angle I actually go for is 60 degrees. Okay, I'm going to get this close, but it's not going to be exact. Okay, so I'm like 60.1, all right? So let's just say that that's what I need. And honestly, your angle doesn't matter. As long as you're consistent on every piece of what you're cutting, your angle is not 100% important. So, what happens at this point is I put a stop block, and I got a video on how to make these. Okay, it's really easy. I put a stop block. I got a smaller one here, but I put them at the distance I need. So in this case, I'm going 5 inches. All right, going 5 inches, and I set my piece of wood here that I'm going to cut. Right. Okay, so I just set a piece of wood here so I would have something that would show, you know, I've got wood, goes up against the stop block. And then when I make my cut, I turn the saw on, I squeeze the lever and all that, and the blade is spinning, and I just roll it down like this, and it's going to make my cut like this. Just put that up here. So when it cuts, it's going to cut down like this. It's going to give me this angle, okay? And what I do, since it's usually done on a longer piece, is then I spin it around and flip it, and I get this angle. That's how I get my parallelogram. Those of y'all that like math and geometry and all. Okay, so on this other side though, I have basically a trapezoid. Okay, so when I'm doing my trapezoid, I have this set here. I bring the saw down and cut that. And then on the other side, instead of a turn and a flip, I'm just going to turn and I cut the other part. So that part is that easy. And then I get to the really fun stuff. Okay, I'm going to show you the basics on doing the holes. And the measurements, just like the length or the height, is not terribly important, except these have to be close enough that it's within the width of your phone itself. Otherwise your phone's going to fall through or sit at a weird angle, which is not good, okay? But you don't want it so close that your phone is going to want to, say, tip off to the side just because it's too close. So I go high enough that I can put my charging cable, because I need to charge it, and I go, for my particular phones, 1 inch from the edge to the center part where I do this for both of those. And then this one, I went 1 inch from the top and in the center, okay? Now this could go lots of different places, but this 1 inch from the top will allow me to go with a horizontal mode supported for the phone, and I'll show you that at the end of the video, okay? Because that's going to have a lot of good uses. So You don't need a drill press, but I used a drill press. So you put the size drill bit that you want to use. In this case, I did a 1/4 inch, and you just put it in there. I can adjust the height of this so I can get my drill bit in there. And then while it's spinning, just move it down and it puts the hole. It's pretty easy to do. So let's go inside and I'll show you some of the ways I use this stand. Okay, I lied. I'm not going inside yet to show you that part. One thing I almost left out was how you actually piece this together. You want to get the holes drilled before you put it together, okay? But somewhere along the line, you want to put it together, all right? So, here's the basics. You've got this angle, in this case it's 60 degrees, and not something that a lot of clamps are going to do well, okay? And you don't really need a clamp, okay? Here's what I do, okay? And now these are offside a little bit. These are just scraps from other projects, okay? So what I do is I take the trapezoid, that's going to be the bottom part, okay? And take a little bit of wood glue. Wood glue is best for this, in my opinion. And I'll put like a little smear of it on here, and I can either rub it in with my finger. I used a Q-tip, I think. Okay. And I can do the same thing here with the wood glue, just a little coat, just a little bit, right? Now, how do I get it to stay together, though? Duct tape, the ultimate clamping device. Okay, I'm kidding about that, but it is duct tape, okay? And so what I do is, if this is the part where I've got the glue right here, then I'm going to just have this sitting about in the middle, just about like that. And then, of course, I put a little bit of glue right in here, and then this part goes like that. I get it set how I want. And I just smear this down. I don't really have a lot of air bubbles or anything, because you want it to hold pretty tight. Okay. Now on the container wood glue, it'll say like let set for 30 minutes. I usually let it set for about an hour or so because I go away and do other things. Okay. For these particular ones, I just let them set overnight. And then when you get done with that, you just pull the tape off. It comes off pretty easy, and you've got a pretty solid bond. On the ones that I use inside the house, I'm giving these away as gifts to a friend of mine. But the ones that I have inside the house, I've used for about 5 years, and all I've got on there is wood glue. So it holds pretty good. But on these, after I did all this, I went to my drill press again, show you what I did. Okay, so the way I set this up is this is off at an angle. That way, where I put this marker for the hole, which should go through both of these pieces of wood, it actually comes out the front right here, and I smooth that down so you don't really feel it. Nothing sticks out. But you offset this part so that I can slide this here, and the drill bit I used, which this one was 1/16 of an inch, will go through both pieces of wood right there where I had the mark. Okay, now I'll tell you why I did that. Okay, this all is being held together by a glued bond, and I'm going to be shipping this through the mail to a friend of mine. Okay, I'm going to be shipping all three. Well, instead of just having the glue bond going here, we now have a glued bond going up through the pieces, and I could have used something like a dowel, and I would have, but I ran out actually, so couldn't do that. Got to go to the store for them. So I just put this, it's actually a bamboo skewer. It's about 6 inches long, so I use one skewer to do all three of these stands, and it just goes up through it, sticks out the other end, and then at the end I put this on my sander and I smooth it all out. So that's pretty much all it takes to make these, and then of course I can put them together, and this is adjustable. Okay. Now these will move pretty easy, and you might not want them to move easy. So this is what I do, at least for shipping purposes. Okay, rubber band. Just double it up enough so it's going to be tight. And I just put it in there like that. So now if I want to move it out some, I can move it out and it'll stay. It's not going to fall out or anything in the package and possibly get lost. Okay. And then this part, I can either put in like this or I can flip it around. Okay, so for my friend, I would glue these. Once you find how far out you want them, I would just use a little bit of glue and glue those into place. This one I would not glue into place because this one is the one that you want to be able to move to sometimes get out of the way and sometimes use it. Okay, so let's go inside the house since it's 30 degrees outside and I've got an open garage, and we'll take a look at what I actually do with using this. Okay, we're set up inside the house right now because 30 degrees is just a little too cold to do this out in my shop. So, we're set up in here and we're going to be looking at this part here that can extend in and out. Okay? Now the purpose of that, there are several purposes. First is, if I'm wanting to say, take a picture or make a video, I've got an angle that's going downward like this, so it's not going to show something far away. Okay, even across from a tabletop, you're not going to be able to see the face of a person. Okay, but if I take this and I can extend it, I can get the camera to go vertical like this. Set that up like that. So the camera goes vertical. And this is actually vertical. There we go. You can see it better like that. So if it goes vertical, you can take a picture all the way across my yard. And if you wanted to be in it, just set your timer and run real fast. But you can actually get something that's going to go all the way across, okay, for a long distance. If I'm going to do a selfie across the yard, I can set this up as a selfie. I don't like selfies, but say I did. But I can set it like this and then, set my timer, run across the yard and be in it. Okay. So that's why we have this set up here. And you can go with landscape mode when you do that. Okay. I'm going to show you something that I find very helpful with this setup here. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at, you set it up on here, up on top. This little button cell battery, okay? Now, these dowels are a 1/4 inch diameter, okay? This is actually about 1 millimeter longer than a 1/4 inch. It's not 5/16, but it's a little bigger than a 1/4, okay? We're gonna look at this. So, what do? We put the battery down here, like this. Now we're going to set our phone here, but instead of doing it with this phone, which is my archaic, like 11-year-old phone, we're going to do it with the phone that I'm recording with right now. So I'm going to move it. Okay, so that flickering is actually from a light I'm trying to use. But I can expand it like this and I can read my numbers. SR66SW. I can read the other parts here like Maxell Japan. But the point is, this really tiny object, you can see clearly by putting the phone flat. And it'll hold flat on the stand because of the way the stand is made. Okay, this can also be used as a document scanner. So let me kind of show how that's going to work. Okay, let's just pull this out for a moment. I once had to send an image of a work ID through email. Now, work IDs are basically the same size as driver's license and credit cards and stuff like that, okay? This AARP advertisement thing they sent me in the mail is the size of those things, okay? And I did a video on what I do with all these little holes I put in here. I don't throw these cards away, I use them, okay? So we're going to take something like this. we're going to see how well we can use this phone stand to read these numbers and measurements on this card size tool. So we're going to set it back like this, just like we had earlier. I'm going to pull these out for now. So it's just like that. Okay, so let me get set up. Okay, so I have this this card called a Smart Ruler 2.0, and it says metric, but if you flip it over, it's SAE or imperial measurements. Okay, but I can read all the numbers and all the little marks really good on this card. And if I made a scan of this, okay, it's going to look flat just like this image right here. So what would happen is I would take a picture with my phone and then just use the editing part and crop out anything that's not the card. And I can get a really good image that'll look like I put it on a scanner. So this is a really good setup to have. So I made these for a friend of mine because he mentioned that you know, he's wondering if I was still working on any wood projects or anything. And he's been my best friend since junior high school, way back in the 70s. So I thought, hey, I'm going to make these for him. And so one for him, one for his wife, one for his son. And he's a frugal person. He doesn't like the waste. So I used all scraps. I didn't buy anything to do this project. Everything was just scraps that was laying around. So to my friend, I hope you and your family get some great use out of these phone stands. This has been Town with Old Guys Stuff on Busy Corner Lane. Have a safe, happy, peaceful, and wonderful day, and goodbye.